there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Market. Finally getting a video out on this channel. I want to apologize. I've been recovering from a mild case of pneumonia, and it's been hard for me to get through a video without coughing up a lung. So hopefully we can get through this video without doing so. So we've been going into a hot market. In fact, I don't believe I've ever seen such a hot market for Pokemon and Magic. In fact, the distributors sent out a letter apologizing for the chaos and the slow orders because they've just been overwhelmed with the amount of orders through Pokemon and Magic. In fact, they claim that it has broken all records since they've been doing this, and it just shows what a hot market we're in. So I want to showcase a product that I think is worthwhile to pick up right now because it has been reprinted and is very cheap at the distribution level. And it is going to be propped up by another card that has just been reprinted and is now cheap and accessible. And this card was Edgar Markov from the Innistrad Remastered. In fact, this card, I believe, saved Innistrad Remastered. It was pretty much a stinker set without Edgar Markov. And Edgar Markov is such a popular card that it propped up Innistrad Remastered. But not only is it going to prop up that, I think it's going to lead to a lot of sales of cards that actually go in this deck. Maybe we'll have to do a top 10 list of cards that I think are good buys right now for Edgar Markov. But most of these cards that are the mainstays in Edgar Markov have been recently reprinted in the Commander deck from the Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan. So that's what I want to focus on in this particular video is why I think that the Rivals of Ixalan Commander decks are a really, really good pickup right now. So a little bit of transparency. There's been some rumors floating around that Commander or that Wizards is changing the reprint policies. We've seen collector boosters just go crazy from like Foundations, Duskmourn, even now with Aether Drift, they're pre-selling at one of the highest prices I've seen in a long time. And so the rumor mill is that Wizards of the Coast is not doing reprints anymore. They're just doing a one and done. I want to kind of put that to rest and tell you the only thing consistent about Wizards of the Coast is their inconsistency on their policies. And I don't see any truth to the reprint policy being changed with Commander decks, especially because today we did get an announcement that they're reprinting Duskmourn Commander decks. So there's a recent reprint on Bloomburrow. There's a recent reprint on Outlaws of Thunder Junction. And there, of course, have been reprints after reprints of things like Lord of the Rings and Fallout. But eventually these reprints do come to an end, and I'm thinking that this was going to be the last reprint of Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So this did just recently get a reprint, and you can see kind of the price waves here of when they've been reprinted for Ixalan. So Ixalan had its height back in May of last year at almost 250s for a display case of it. Then it was reprinted, and it shot all the way down to the 150s. And it recovered all the way back to the 215s, and now it got its other reprint all the way down to about 140s, and now it's recovering back to the 150, 155 range. So at distribution level, for transparency's sake, these are going for about 120 at the cheap distributor right now. There's another expensive distributor selling them about 140. The price I'm quoting is what it cost me after fees, credit card fees, and distributor fees. And like if I were to get this for patrons, for example, there'd be a PayPal fee attached to that as well. So if you are a patron, that is the price that I can currently get you this particular product is like the 120s between 140s, depending on the distributor. But even at the 140s, I think this is a pretty good pickup just based on the fact that these tend to recover. So again, we're going to focus on the Blood Rights deck from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, but I think that all of them are actually pretty good. You can even see the stinker set here of the Pirates is actually a pretty good Commander deck. It's just the value of the rest of them are so much more that it's kind of being dumbed down based on the fact that to get a copy of Velociraptor, a store has to buy a set of these, and therefore, supply and demand type thing for everyone that actually wants to purchase a Velociraptor. There isn't a buyer for a Ahoy Mateys. So that is why the price of that particular commander is low. However, I still think that's a really, really good commander deck right out of the box, and I think it'll be popular. I mean, Pirates are a very, very popular theme going forward for a long time. So there are a lot of good reprints in these Lost Caverns of Ixalan. It was kind of a standout commander set, and you can see that's why they've reprinted it so many times. Just a clutch product. So going back to Edgar Markov and specifically the Blood Rights and why I think this is such a good pickup right now, even like almost breaking these down for singles is almost there. There's a lot of money cards in these particular decks. I'm not even going to show you the breakdowns of them. That's another video for another day, is that Wizards of the Coast needs to be very, very careful about commander decks, and especially reprinting commander decks. And I think that maybe it's that catch-22. Do you want to have available intro products? And as far as the store owner is concerned, I actually do like them to reprint these, because by far the things we sell the most at our store is Commander precons. We've seen the kind of shift in demographics for Magic the Gathering, where people used to be very savvy on building their own decks, buying singles, that sort of thing. And now we've seen the kind of shift to people just love precons. I don't know if I want to call it laziness or if it's just convenience of buying a precon and adding on to a precon, but the vast majority of my Commander players, that's what they typically do. They pick up one of each of these every new release. That's what they focus on, and they upgrade them as, you know, they find cards for this. And a lot of them actually even buy precons just to get particular cards rather than, you know, sort through their own collection to find those cards. It's crazy how I've seen that kind of shift in the mentality of Magic players. So if you go back to like the New Capenna era or the Baldur's Gate, the Commander decks were actually faring very, very poorly. I know that those weren't particularly the best decks in that time period, and I think that the market was just kind of overwhelmed with so many products coming out, and Commander, I think, was just, I mean, they really juiced Commander players at that time. But now we've seen the pendulum swing back the other way, and even like really, really bad sets like Kamigawa and the bad sets like Crimson Vow and Innistrad Midnight Hunt, all of those recovered. In fact, if you actually look at, let me show you this real quick, which I'm kicking myself because I remember we could get these things at one point for under $100 for the Baldur's Gate Commander decks. So this was crazy. I remember breaking these down. I remember someone ordered 100 of these from me and paid me to break them down because they were just going to sell the singles of them. And I remember it was like $100 for a display case of these. And now these are going for all the way up to $450. So these had a massive print wave. And I would still say that Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate probably had more supply for the Commander decks than something like Ixalan now getting multiple print waves. Of course, you'd have to see the numbers, but I'm telling you, that's how dumbed down these were, how basically the flooded the market was of the Battle for Baldur's Gates. And man, oh man, have they recovered in price. I mean, they have just gone nuts for the past, you know, few months, and now they're all the way up to this $450 mark. So, Lost Caverns of Ixalan, specifically looking at this Blood Rights deck. I wouldn't fault you on speccing completely into this deck if that was your prerogative. But let's just take a look at this Edgar Markov and see why it's such a good pickup for the Ixalan Commander. So again, Edgar Markov was a commander that has been popular for quite some time. However, it fell out of favor just because of the price. And so now we have the question kind of answered. Is there a price point in which Commander players do not build a deck? And the answer is absolutely, because now the Edgar Markov has been basically cut in half from its previous high down to the $40 to $50 mark. It has gone from being out of even the top 20, and I know a reprint actually gives new light to this, and people like, oh, I remember this card, and I'm going to build it. But just the price change alone, I think, is the major factor for why people are building this deck. And so Edgar Markov is going to spike a lot of cards. And when I was researching this for that video I was talking about, I noticed this. So look how many cards are actually, from these high synergy cards, are actually out of the Ixalan Commander decks. So we have the Cordial Vampire, the Legion Lieutenant, the Sanctum Seeker. I mean, it just goes on and on with the list. If you come down here with this of how many that are basically just auto includes, 50% or 63% of decks, 65% of decks of all of these cards that are contained out of the precon are what people are putting for these Edgar Markovs. So I think that this is going to push a lot of demand on this particular product. If we come back over to Blood Rights specifically, it is selling 8 per day. So it is very, very hot. Let's try to compare that to Velociraptors, which is one of the most popular commander decks of all time. Let's see if we can pop this up here. That is not where I'm going here. So let's go Lost Caverns, and we'll look at the sealed products here. And yeah, this one is one of the most popular, and let's see how many it's selling per day. So it's selling 3 per day. So yeah, so the Blood Rights is now starting to outpace the Velociraptor, and I'm really thinking it is because of that Edgar Markov reprint. So again, I think that these are just pickups. Like Bloomburrow, you do have to be careful because Wizards of the Coast has shown us that they are more than willing to reprint commander decks. So again, if whatever those rumor mills with the reprint policies going around, possibly collectors, we're seeing collector prices go nuts. Even things like, I've never seen a set sell in like Aether Drift at, what is it now, almost 290 for a Aether Drift that's we've been so used to basically at release, at pre-release, collectors boosters selling for just slightly above distributor cost, and now they're way above. So they have been scaling back on these, but commander decks do seem to get their necessary waves to meet the demand. But I kind of do like this policy by Wizards of like printing to demand when there is demand, rather than doing something like they did with Baldur's Gate. Like I still say how much supply. These were everywhere. Like you couldn't beg people to take these. It was just they weren't like a bad product even back then. There was still, a lot of people that wanted them. The market was just so flooded with product at this point that they were just so incredibly inexpensive. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video with Edgar Markov. Like I said, I might try to do a top 10 video of specific cards that I think are good pickups right now. I mean, you all know my methodology of the spoiler alert. It's this guy right here, Edgar Charm Groom. I'll probably do a daily delve on it or something. But yeah, so if you have the opportunity to pick up cheap Lost Caverns of Ixalan, I wouldn't hesitate on them, especially the Blood Rights. If you find them specifically, like if the big box stores have them, even at what would they have? What do these even sell at big box stores? Probably like what, $60? Are they 60 or 55? I'm not sure how much they do them, but I mean, even at that point, they're not too shabby because I think this one will start to recover and go up in price. So for specifically speaking, I think the route to go is, if you can get them at distributor price, to go the full display deck for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, because like I said, I don't think even beyond Blood Rights, I think all of them are really good. They're going to be in demand for a long time. People like tribal, they like theme-based decks, and they're going to sell. And as I stated, the demographic change of commander players of going into this like really huge appetite for precons, I think is here to stay for the game. Which is weird that Magic's almost turned into more of a living card game type feel to it than the whole, people are chasing collector packs in the early 2020s. So anyway, we'll take a look real quick at just the sealed price of it. Again, there's not a whole lot of spread right now at distribution cost if you have to buy at the 140. As stated, I can still get from one distributor around the 120s. And so out of all the products that are out right now, like all the focus is on Innistrad Remastered, all the focus is on the Aether Drift that's coming out. If you're just looking for a good place to park kind of some money that I think it will recoup in no time, I think we're going to see a very similar thing in the next like 6 months to this going back up. So it hit its dip in August and then all the way back in December. So even less than 6 months, it went all the way back up from 150 to 200. And I don't see any reason why this won't be the same with this reprint wave. And we hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with the Rogue Market. Thanks for watching.